Welcome and thank you for joining us on the second part of the Data Career Podcast with Tambe Tabitha. On the first part of this episode, Tabitha shared her experience and excitement of being recruited as a data analyst, but discovered that the role was more of a developer role, which entailed building data tools. It was really an insightful conversation, so if you're joining us now, please check it out. In the second part of our conversation with Tabitha, we'll be talking more about some of the things you can do to scale your career based on Tabitha's experience, and also sharing some of the learning resources to explore to become a proficient data science professional. Now, let's query on. So our next question and of interest, I would like to know if there's some common mistakes you see people working on in the field of data early on in their career, some mistakes you think can be avoided. I don't know, not to put what's in your mouth, but you spoke about learning many things. Was it a plus or a minus? Things like this that you feel like sometimes people can do better and can improve upon their, transition into the desired career, be it, data scientist, AI engineer, whatever you have in this realm of data science.
Yeah. I would say honesty, it's to thine own self be true. I think that quote actually came about to thine own self be true about your finances, but be true, tell yourself the truth about what you know and what you don't know. Yeah. And it's on the extremes. Sometimes you would see there's also I think it's in Dunning-Kruger syndrome, something like that, where people that you have such a limited amount of knowledge that you don't know what you don't know. So you feel that the little you know is so much, and then you self-describe yourself as an expert, but you know just so little that you don't know what you don't know. So you don't want to talk and act like you know everything when you're starting. You want to be the person in the room that asks stupid questions, because you have to ask a stupid question only once. I learned that. Okay, I knew it, but someone said this exact statement just recently in a YouTube video that I watched. You don't talk or act like you know everything, especially around people that know more than you. Never feel remove that inertia in yourself to be what if they find out that I'm not as intelligent? What if they find out that I don't know this thing? Because they will find out. So all you have to decide is that would they find out now or would they find out later? It's better if they find out now. So if they're talking about something in a meeting and everybody is nodding their heads and you figure out that you're the only one that doesn't understand it, it's better that they find out now that you don't understand it. Ask the question, because it is far more embarrassing, far more interesting if you've been working on something for months, a year or so, and then you don't know a fundamental concept. And knowledge builds on knowledge. So apart from the fact that people will find out or people will say whatever, the stupid questions you ask today will not have to be asked tomorrow. So you want to learn progressively like that. You don't want to fake it. You don't want to fake that you know things that you don't. Yeah. At the same time, so that's on one extreme. At the same time, take on the other extreme with people that know a few things but keep feeling that they don't know anything. Yeah. Take on more responsibility than you feel comfortable taking. So it's don't hit too much. Don't pull only the weight that you can carry. Add small to it. So when they give task that, okay, who wants to do this? Who wants to do that? Try to volunteer for things that you're not fully equipped to do from time to time. It's true that it's a cost benefit analysis thing, because you don't want to put the team in jeopardy. But at the same time, you have to realize that the people that volunteer to do these tasks don't always know how to do it at the point in which they volunteer. So from time to time, throw yourself forward and find out where your limits are. Because someone asked on a YouTube video again, someone asked, aren't you curious? Aren't you curious where your limits are? You're 20, you're in your 20s. aren't you curious how far you can reach? Aren't you curious how far you can go? So it's true that you should have a balance at some point, but try not to slow down. Try not to cut your coat according to your size. Like add a little bit on the edges, you see. Try to punch a bit above your weight. Try to step out of your comfort zone from time to time. Try to, like, if you see, I have the thread on Twitter where I have note to self rules of code, where I tweet about the things that I study. That was very uncomfortable for me when I started. I'm not a social media person. It's like, it was very uncomfortable. And so if you're someone that is typically on this end of the spectrum, try to be on this other end of the spectrum, because I felt that if I start posting on social media about the things I'm learning, people might think that I know things. And then what if they find out that I don't know as much as they think I know? And see, life is meant to be lived. So you would have to get things done. Don't sit and analyze and overanalyze but don't be open to learning. Never lose your ability to ask, what's that? What does that mean? Why did he do it like this instead of like that? Even if you're the only one that it's not obvious to, especially if you're the only one that it's not obvious to, ask questions. People on the other side always thinking that, I know a few things, I don't know enough. I applied for this job with an Audacity nano degree. Like, I did data cam, and an Audacity nano degree. I haven't studied computer engineering. I haven't studied computer science. I'm learning these things as I go. Punch above your weight. Try things out. Like, the only way to know is if you try. The only way to find out is if you ask. And what's the worst that can happen? They'll say no. What's the worst that can happen? They'll say that, when you receive those emails, when you're looking for a job, and they say, we're sorry to inform you. That's the only thing. They'll only be sorry to inform you, but we'll try again the next time. And another something that I like to point out to the younger people that I have around me. So I'm pretty young, for the listeners. Don't mind as I keep saying that. Old age, up and down. I'm pretty young. But like, for the younger people, I try to point out that as soon as you start learning a skill, subscribe to newsletters about subscribe to hiring newsletters. So, for example, if you go to a website, whenever you stumble on an interesting company that maybe data analyst or data scientist work at, and then they say that if you want to know about job postings, subscribe here. Put your email address. Be very generous with sharing your email address to these companies. Because what will happen is, when I was learning data science, and because from the time I was learning electrical engineering, even before I decided to switch, I had subscribed to like companies all around the world. I mean, when I think about it in retrospect, it was quite bold. Like, when you do things and you don't realize that they're bold until later on and you think about your decisions and you're like, this girl, you have some, because I subscribe to like, the hiring newsletter of Google. So I was thinking of, what if I can be an electrical engineer like on Google hardware? So I had like those emails, like I subscribed. So whenever Google posts a new job that is electrical engineering related, it came to my mailbox. And then what I would do is, like, right from year 2, the truth is, you are insufficient. Like, no matter how good or bad you are, you're insufficient according to a skill. So the favor you do for yourself is to find the skill soon enough, find out how insufficient you are, and find out what you can do to reach a level of sufficiency. Because what these newsletters did to me is that I would open the jobs. I think even from year 2 in university, I mean, what did I know? Year 2 University of Engineering. That's when I still wanted to be an electrical engineer. But I opened these jobs of like Google hardware and all these other companies around the globe hiring electrical engineers. And then I'll find out exactly what they're asking for that I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I would know that, okay, these are the things I'm supposed to learn. And it was also very helpful for data science, because with data science, I didn't know any data scientist. When I started learning, I had literally never met anybody who worked as a data scientist. Like, the first person I met her like 1 or 2 years after I started studying data science. And because I was mentioning to my community lead at that point, the lead of Women Tech Makers, that I've never actually met someone that does data science. So those kind of things expose you to what's the skill, what is the expectation, world standard level. What are people, when people hear that I am an electrical engineer, when people learn that I'm a data scientist, when people hear that I'm a data analyst, what are they expecting me to know? Find out before you have to start looking for jobs, and then people don't reach out to you for interviews, or so you find out how insufficient you are, and it's apply it to every aspect of your life. It's true that it works for data science, but it works for everything else. Like, I really enjoy finding something to compare with, finding like a skill, like, and I get really excited when if I want to learn a new skill and I come across someone, whether online or offline, but I come across someone who is so good at the thing that it amazes me, because suddenly I have a measure of insufficiency, and not just a measure of insufficiency, but a measurable goal to look forward to. I'm like, this is what success looks like. And that's also very important for us, like in Cameroon, because I studied in Cameroon, and all of these things, I was doing it when I was in Cameroon. But sometimes you don't have, like, also you see, for the Anglophone Cameroonian girl or boy, we don't have that many industries, factories, any sort of industrial activity in our part of the country. So there is, like, even with like the seniors or the uncles or the aunties that go ahead to work in these big corporations, they don't live beside us. They don't visit us during the weekends. They're in the Francophone part. They are working in Yaoundé. They're working in Douala. So you have to go out and look for your role models by yourself. So I've also found Twitter quite useful, because with Twitter, you just have to follow one person that tweets about the field that you want to that you want to get into. And if the person tweets about the field, then the person will be interacting with other people in that field, and then you start following like that, and increasing the number of people that you're in touch with that are in that field. And it's just so that right there from Cameroon, you're always somehow in the global conversation. Now, it's not for you to feel that, oh, I don't have anything to contribute, but it's also just for you to be abreast with, okay, like, I started learning about AI ethics. I started learning about, sometimes AI is not that good, because I know that, well, artificial intelligence, machine learning is a good thing. It adds efficiency. But then with participating and reading through these conversations that these larger professionals were having with themselves, that's when I found out that, okay, sometimes AI can be bad, and sometimes it can be really bad, and sometimes the stakes are really high, because you would see, if you do artificial intelligence facial recognition, and then they start using that to mistakenly pick up the wrong person as a criminal, then, well, those are some really high stakes. If you do machine learning for health, and you start, you're treading a really thin line between life and death if you're putting a machine learning model to do surgeries. So yeah, it just broadens your scope, and it also, I really encourage you to find a community. If you're in Boya, like in the southwest region of Cameroon, participate in Silicon Mountain communities, show up at events. If you're in an isolated place, wherever you are in the world, if you don't have many people that are doing the thing that you want to do, there's Twitter. If you can find one person, it tends to be like a broadcast effect. So if you can find one person, you can literally like find the rest of the group, and subscribe to like those email notifications. If you want to get a job in a particular sector, you are not qualified. That's just the truth. You are not qualified. When you start learning, you're not qualified. You're starting from zero. So you have to be clear. Okay, I'm at zero now. And then when you're getting those job descriptions every day or every week, or get as many as you can, subscribe to as many relevant lists as you can. What happens is that you start seeing that, oh, at first I don't used to have any of the requirements. Now I have 2. Now I have 3. Now I have 4. And then that's it. You start applying for jobs. And when you've graduated from school, or when the day that it occurs to you that you should start applying for jobs, start applying. Like, don't ask for, just start applying. Like, I wouldn't tell you that you should start applying now, but one day you would wake up and it will occur to you that, okay, why have I not applied for a job yet? That day, just start applying, because it's a feedback loop too. At first you apply, nobody gets back to you. You're improving, you're learning, you're posting about the things that you're learning. And then people start getting back to you. Okay, you go through first line of interview. They don't get back to you again. Well, progress has been made. And then you keep applying. At some points, you're reaching final stage of interview until you're having a job. It's a long process. It's an interesting process to go through, but it's worth going through. This is interesting work that we do. I would say not everybody can show up to work and say that they like the work that they do. But with data science, the fact that you can use those same skills in any sector means that you can actually go and work in a sector that you actually enjoy. You can say that, okay, I've always liked medicine, I've always liked healthcare. You can be a data scientist, or a data engineer, a data analyst in the healthcare sector and get like all the domain knowledge for it. If you've always liked finance, you can work in finance. It's almost as if we have this multi-purpose tool and then we can just choose where to direct it. So get good and get honest about where you are, and get honest about where you can be, and the amount of work that has to be done to reach where you need to be. Mm-hmm.
Well, that was really a nice one, and you kind of summarized all at the end, and which was really interesting too. Because at the same time, I also feel like sometimes maintaining the balance you spoke about at both extreme ends is something difficult. Sometimes you get people asking, like, I mean, am I not, let me say, undervaluing myself? Am I not overvaluing myself? And all that? How do you find this perfect balance? And yeah, so it's about, as you say, carrying your height, getting your coat according to your size, and just like carrying more, not just because at the same time, too, sometimes you work with people and you're just like asking yourself, I mean, personally on some projects I've worked on, and you're asking yourself, like, I mean, seriously, is this what all you can do? Like, because you know the person can go beyond that, but the person isn't giving like him full self, and sometimes you find yourself, let me say, doing a lot. And so at both ends, I mean, it's like finding that perfect balance for growth, which is very important. And going on to the, like, I mean, still on your days back at uni, and also learning and also evolving, is there any particular project you worked on, like, that actually, let me say, built some skills in you, and when you look back, right, in hindsight, like, you were like, wow, this project I worked on taught me so much and kind of was very valuable in my career growth?
Project that I really enjoyed, my final year projects from electrical engineering. So you'd see, when you ask a question, maybe you would be specifying which of me you're asking, because there's the electrical engineer and then the data scientist. But I built an incubator for premature babies for my final year project. Wow. I mean, it was a test of character. It was a test of skill. Yeah. It was so much fun in retrospect, but while it was being built, so yeah, I think that's a major highlight. Of course, like coding, I really enjoy coding. That's why I switched. But at the same time, like, so with building the incubator, I had to like assemble the circuits, put like all the wires together, get the structure built, incorporate the circuit into the hardware structure, and then upload the code. Like, so I actually had to write some Arduino code. So I used an Arduino Nano. I had to write like some Arduino code and upload it into my board to control like the temperature, the humidity, the level of lighting in the baby's chamber. And I liked that project because it was not just engineering, because of course from the start, in theory, we know, I knew how like temperature regulation and humidity regulation would work. I think the incubator was also enabled remote monitoring. So you could monitor the temperature and humidity of the baby chamber using Bluetooth from an app in your phone. So that was quite interesting. So as an engineer, that was a fascinating thing to work on. As a woman, so like as a woman, yeah. Working on babies, I read so much about babies and about prematurity and about the things. So like the domain knowledge was quite useful. So I read about incubators like from the first incubator that was made up to modern incubators now, all the improvements that have been done step by step. I read about the diseases that premature babies had and how incubator design evolved over time to take care of that. Like, I enjoyed the reading. I enjoyed the challenge of building the circuit itself, because you had like, I wrote the code worked. But then the interesting thing about Arduino is that you write. So Arduino is, for my software engineering friends, Arduino is a platform that allows you to do like embedded circuit trials. So it's an actual hardware board, and then you have the code. So you learn how to code in Arduino, which is a C-like language. And then you upload it into the Arduino board, which is a hardware board. It's like the size of your palm, the size of your inner palm without your fingers. So I mean, there are various sizes, but what I used was the Arduino Uno. So you upload it into that board, and then you're able to connect sensors to it. So it's able to read in data from your sensors, and it's able to also control other things. Like, it's able to control light, it's able to control temperature if you hook it to the correct elements, correct temperature and humidity controls. So that was quite fun. And yeah, it was, yeah, I think that was a really, really fun project to do. Especially because it would work, then it will stop working. Then you have no idea why it has stopped working. Then you go into full debugging mode. Is it the software? Is it the hardware? Is it just me? Sometimes like it was fun because I was building that on my own, but my classmates were also building their respective projects. So it was an interesting journey to kind of go through together. And I think that was one of the experiences that solidified in my head that, oh, I'm an engineer now. Because it took a while for me to call myself an engineer aloud. Yeah.
Okay, really interesting. And I can imagine how challenging that was too. Okay, and also, I mean, like, when you talk about like this, I mean, and the time frame we should work on, there's this consulting meme where, I mean, you always talk about what the client required and what was delivered. So this expectations versus, let me say, deliveries. And you being a data specialist working most of the time, I was saying a consultant-like style. So how do you always, like, let me say, try to meet customers' expectations with deliveries, and are there any trade-offs you make, right, in terms of time, and how do you also try to ensure that at least you're on the same page with the client?
Okay, so that is do your best as possible never to produce subpar work. So what we tend to do is that in the first meetings, the first 1 or 2 meetings, so the kickoff meetings, we have to scope out exactly what can be done in this time frame. So if you want more to be done, then more time needs to be given, such that, and if you want less to be done, like, essentially, you don't want to say that this is what we are going to do and nothing more. No, you want to carve out the picture of moving pieces, because that's exactly what's going on in our heads as engineers. You have the moving pieces between the quality of work, the quantity of work, and the time. And quality of work as an engineer is important. And even as an organization, as social finance, there is a standard of work that we have to do. There's a standard of work that we put our names to. So the quality of work it doesn't move. So that is like, that's fixed. So now, how much of that do you want to get done? So we have to first of all carve out. That's why it's important to have like this range of experiences, because we have, like I said, design, fund, and scale solutions to complex social problems. So we have that designing phase where, even as an engineer, I have to sit down and break it back to principle. What is it that the client is trying to do? What is it that this sector is trying to do? What is it that these people are trying to achieve in their sector? And sometimes, if you can break it back into simple principles, you might find out that the thing that they want to build, that the thing that they think they need to build doesn't need to be as complex to achieve that same goal. So I find it very useful to do that. Scoping out at the start and saying that, okay, what is it exactly that needs to be done? And does it need to be done in this way? And sometimes it needs to be done in that way and we get that work done. But then sometimes in some really interesting scenarios, you'd find out that, oh, so you want to do that. You could also just do it like this. And then you find like an MVP. So to create, I really enjoy it. I think the fun thing about working in a team, apart, like as compared to just coding by myself, is that I get to use words like MVP. I really enjoy the process of getting an MVP because it goes back to like, it's like a user design kind of thought process where I'm like, okay, you have this big tool, because sometimes we go and we are creating a tool from scratch. Sometimes we find a tool that is in Excel and we want to digitalize it. And then the Excel tool does just so many things. And you have to go back and say, okay, it's not just that the Excel button, like Excel has this feature and we have to translate that exact same feature into the digital format. What does this tool want to do? And can it be done in a different way? Or can it be done in a faster way? Or can it be done in a better way? So yeah, we tend to do that at like the start of consulting, such that what the client wants is what the client gets. So you're able to say, this is what the MVP looks like. This is what would do exactly what you need to do. And then if you want to add like extra features on it, if you want to add extra functionality, make it snazzy. I don't know if snazzy is a word. I just heard that from someone. But if you want to make it like more shiny, then you can make it shiny. But like core functionality has to be completed in the time that has been carved out for it. And if it cannot be completed in that time, then we are either reducing scope or we are increasing the time. But the quality of work cannot be sacrificed.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. I mean, I think for our listeners who are trying to go into the consulting side of data science, we really find this, very valuable of, let me say, delivering product MVP, and at the same time, what you really put as priorities, I'll say, is about the quality of the work, which sometimes most people feel like you can just deliver crap. It's really interesting to get that. So personally, at this particular time, you've learned so many things, you've done so many things, you've contributed to open source, and I think there's a lot to come. But what particular framework or language are you interested in? Are you interested in learning right now, or project that you feel like there's this particular language or framework you would like to learn, and why?
Right now, like in this moment, I want to get more comfortable with front-end development.
Okay.
I want to get more. I think that I'm relatively comfortable as a backend developer. I recently, in the last 3 months, I was lead backend developer on the Children in Need validator, which is far above my weight. Like when I looked at the Trello board and I saw that, this project has actually come to an end. Wow, it was quite an interesting moment for me. But in the past 3 months, I think, is it 3 months? From August, I'm losing track of time. But yeah, from August last year, I was leading development on the same Children in Need validator. So I think for everything that I thought I knew, I've tested and found out that, okay, I knew these ones. I didn't know those ones. So I've learned that. But then as a front-end developer, I'm still like in the tinkering phase. I'm still like, with Python, I think I can more or less sit down and write Python like by heart. Like I can just open a blank piece of paper, a blank page of code, and then like build out functionality, build out features. But like with frontend, I still like, I Google a lot. I like cross-reference. How did this other person do it there? Which is, well, of course, it's a learning journey, because it's just in the past year that I picked up frontend I touched JavaScript for my first time less than 2 years ago. So, I would want, when I imagine myself, I would want to be someone that can just like create a website from nothing. I really enjoy when people do that. Like I have a few friends that are software engineers, and it's a really impressive skill when I see it. So yeah, I want to get a bit more comfortable with front end. Yeah, I think that I'm standing on solid ground with pandas. I've used pandas approximately every day since August. Like, I've used pandas in some formats. So I think as far as like the panda stack is concerned, yeah, I mean, I still find out things from time to time. Like last week, I came across dataframe.assign, so df.assign for the first time. That was interesting. But the range of things that can be done, I've gone through like a broad range of pandas functionality. I'm also reading this book, Python for Data Science by Jake Van Der Plas, and just going through the chapter on pandas, which is quite an extensive chapter, finding out that, oh, I know that I've used that. I know that I've used that. So it's interesting to see. But now I want to learn. I want to expand my range a bit and learn some front-end development.
Very interesting. I mean, and because like I started some years back with Python, but it did not really stick to me, and JavaScript was what stick to me. Like, I mean, because the visual feedback of, let me say, doing things the front end before actually when we know JS. So, I mean, in contrast to you, we are coming from like, let me say, the back end with Python, which is more logical. And I think as time goes on, anyway, I started liking more of the logical way of things, and like, so it's interesting that I mean you have this other part which is like, I mean, contrast more of the logical before going to like, I would say like the beautiful things and seeing things working towards the front end. Anyway, I hope.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, I said the thing that I found, there are two things that I found fascinating when I entered front end development for the first time. The first was that, why are there so many file extensions? Like, with Python, you typically have .py. Like, no matter how much I modularize my code, like there's modules and there's packages, like, but it's always a .py file. Like, okay, there's init, but there's a .py file like everywhere. And then I come to JavaScript, and then there's .css, and then there's .js, there's .csx in TypeScript, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, what happens where? Who does what? Like, so at first I was just overwhelmed by the number of files, and then I remember the first time I ran JavaScript code, and then it failed, and then there was nothing in the stack trace that told me what the problem was. And then I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Because with Python, when Python fails, Python tells you like, this line in this particular place is wrong. Like Python actually like traces it out for you. And then sometimes I think the stack traces of Python have become like really good that sometimes I think that it tries to guess what you might have wanted to say. Something like that. But the error reporting on Python is really good. So with JavaScript, it's an interesting world that you have been living in, and I'm walking into it slowly but surely.
Sure. I mean, JavaScript is just like a spaghetti with so many things to like. I mean, combine
it's a powerful language. Like, to be fair, hats off to it. It's quite a powerful language with the number of frameworks, the number of things it can do on the web, and I think there's also JavaScript for machine learning. So that is interesting.
There's some progress there, but I mean, Python has more. Python is like, I would say, the omega or the alpha.
Yes, a larger community.
Exactly. And I mean, Python to an extent too is I would say the Python to learn, I will not say it's relatively easy because for me it wasn't, but what I get for most people, like when I talk to, is like Python is like easier for them to learn. But as I earlier mentioned, that wasn't the case for me. So I don't know if that's why people like tilt towards Python more. And anyway, like that's something to find out. Anyway, like still talking about tools and frameworks. What IDE do you use?
Visual Studio Code.
Okay, interesting.
That's what I've been using that since I learned how to code, and I haven't found a reason to change.
Okay, Copilot. Do you use Copilot?
No, not yet. I should try it out at some point. I had some reservations about using Copilot, but then I'm getting more comfortable with the thoughts, because initially I saw it as something that if it writes code for me, then I might not learn as quickly as as quickly as I would have learned. Like the hesitation was because I didn't want to develop a dependency on it. But then with the launch of ChatGPT and talking to ChatGPT through a few code snippets, I've seen that actually we've learned by seeing things being done. So I'm quite open to the idea of trying Copilot now, because from the time that we learn 1 + 1 = 2 in primary school, we saw our teacher do it. And then we saw that, okay, 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 3. And then from those relationships now, we started joining the pieces together. So I think that we essentially learn by finding relationships within, like finding relationships like across pieces of information. And me learning by myself is really just, okay, I learn things. When I get stuck, I Google them. Then I see, like, I read through Stack Overflow answers. And please remember to vote when you see an answer that is good. Like on Stack Overflow, sometimes I see an answer and I feel like I should send the person cake, because like you're stuck, and then you come across like an answer that just solves it. But then other times I would see maybe 3 or 4 answers across a number of Stack Overflow threads, and then the combined knowledge from that helps me solve the problem that I'm facing. And then in those cases, if I find a question where someone asks the exact same question that I was looking for, then I would create a new answer that combines all those pieces of information and then post it as an answer there. So that's something that I want to encourage too. If you come across a question on Stack Overflow and you know the answer it. I think that there's this hesitation for us to actually like contribute to these platforms ourselves. So feel free to. The day I started contributing to Stack Overflow is because I was with someone more senior and we were coding together, and then we came across a problem, solved it, couldn't find the answer on Stack Overflow. So went back to the question, and then the person actually typed out the answer. And I was like, oh, just seeing him do that. Of course, I knew that I could type in the answers, but there's something about seeing people do stuff. So I think that's going to be the same relationship with Copilot. I guess seeing it type along with me just exposes me to like larger amounts of knowledge at a quicker pace. So I'm open to trying it out. Yeah.
I mean, funny enough, even though we haven't spoken about this, but your mental process of approaching these tools was the same mental process I had like approaching Copilot, and I also say like ChatGPT and earlier phase, but I was say more of Copilot. I remember when I signed up for it, and actually I was let me say on the earlier waiting list, and I was got my own access to like try. I never tried it anyway, but excited. And it came back to this, to what you just said. I never tried it because when I thought about like this dependency you talk about, and I can't really boast of myself of being like a pro programmer, like I mean to a degree of like doing stuff like like from the top of my head in some cases, right? There's some things I still need to go back, look at. There's some things that obviously I can do them. That's not like, but at the same time, I just felt like actually this will be doing stuff for me when I'm not that good. I don't understand some stuff, and like you get it working, but you don't get how it's functioning. It's just like when you say there's this meme about in coding where you see the car with walking without legs, and they say when the code is functioning, you don't touch it.
That's something that I really try not to do. Like every piece of code that is part of my responsibility, like this tool that I just finished building, I know what every line in the backend does, like every single line of code.
Exactly.
And I think that it's important not to use code when you don't know what it does. So maybe, especially when you're learning to code, and even when you see code on Stack Overflow, sit down there and read the explanation of what it does and why it does it in that particular way, because you don't want to end up, and even when you see the code on Stack Overflow that works, don't like copy it over and just paste it in your IDE. Like actually type it out. There's this mental process about typing out code. So actually type it out.
Exactly.
But yeah, don't push code to production if you don't know what it does, because you're setting yourself up for trouble.
Exactly. But in contrast to ChatGPT, I mean, like what I really liked about it, and is that explainability aspect of things, like actually like getting why this works and why this doesn't work out. Yeah, even though sometimes I still just copy, from Stack Overflow from what I get, but I try to get where it's working. And if I can write it, I like do that. But I just feel it comes back to like this aspect of explainability, understanding, and also actually, let me say, being more aware. And you kind of touched that really well. And so that was something I really wanted to share light on because, I also had that kind of thought process towards it. And anyway, now we've spoken so much about, tech stack, your experience and all that. But I'd like to know, how do you unwind time on your weekends? Is it like you spend time in your code base, or what do you do to like to have a good time during the weekend, or just like take time off?
I try not to work continuously. So I am reading. I like books. I bought a few books. I thought that like the books I bought would be like my books for 2023, but I'm on my last book, so I should probably buy more. But I read Deep Work recently, December last year. And then what did I just finish reading? I finished reading Range, the book Range so Deep Work is Cal Newport. Range is David Epstein. I finished reading Range, I think 2 days ago. And then now I'm reading Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport again, because, well, one good book probably precedes another good book. So I'm reading his second book. I like reading. Yeah. What else do I do? I like eating nice food. So then that comes with a bit of a caveat, because I enjoy eating nice food, but then I have to cook the food that I eat. So it has translated to cooking nice food too. But if you ask me to choose, I would prefer to eat the nice food without having to be the one that cooks it. But yeah, I really enjoy eating tasty, colorful food, spicy enough. I enjoy cooking. I take strolls sometimes. I take strolls to clear my head, or just to watch people. I enjoy watching crowds. So sometimes I'll just take a stroll, and like in a crowded place, and just watch people's interactions with each other. It's quite fun. To be, it's almost as if you're in a movie, but you're not. Kind of, yeah. I like watching people. And then that's what I do. And you, how do you spend your weekend?
Well, typical weekends I'll say I watch a movie, maybe hang out with some few friends. And if there's a meetup I can attend the meetup anyway. I like being with tech people around me, and maybe just at the same time, just catching fun, doing what guys do, maybe watch soccer and stuff like that. But it's
football. It's football. It's football.
Okay, football. Anyway. Yeah. Sorry, I'm in the UK. Football.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and one of the aspects you spoke about, which I was to come to that, and you already touched light on, but you did mention some resources and books. That's something I'm always looking for things I can grow personally as a person and also my career, and I think it's the same thing for our listeners, because I feel most of the time when I read something, it sticks to mind better than sometimes I was listening and watching. So are there any books, be it work or be it like, I'll say just like personal development or growth awareness, that you would like to recommend? Just a couple of, maybe even 5 if you can get up to that.
Okay. So you have to stop me when I reach 5, because I would probably just blurt out like a library of books. I find it useful to read books that have been around for a while, because, well, first of all, the fact that a book has been around for long enough and it's still in print means that there's probably some valuable knowledge in it. I like to learn from my elders. I like to learn from the wisdom of the aged. So where do we start? For guidance in life, for calming me down, for putting my head in the right place, for putting me on track, top recommendation is the Bible.
Yep. Okay.
And then we have, I read the Bible quite often. There's a whole lot of life of activities or events that don't seem as serious to you if you are grounded. And the Bible grounds me. And then we have this book, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. It's a large book. It was written hundreds of years ago. The book is so large that no matter how you like to speed read through books, you would have to slow down at some point. So I would just advise that you slow down from the start and you read it gradually. I learned a lot from that book. I started reading it immediately after, not immediately, but around the time, like probably, I think it's immediately kind of, after I defended my degree from the University of Boya, Faculty of Engineering. I started reading that book, and then I would joke with my friends and I would say that by the time I finish this book, I would be successful. It's 600 pages long. But there's so much, the depths of the knowledge is impressive. Like for you to be able to write that much and maintain a coherent story or coherent thought. So you have that. Then psychology. I'm interested in human behavior. I Am Okay, You're Okay. That's a book by Thomas A. Harris. I'm Okay, You're Okay. I stumbled on the book in the library in the University of Boya. So I was sitting beside the engineering sector. Someone had borrowed the book and kept it in the wrong place. So I was like, what's this book doing here? Like, what kind of a title of a book is that? Then I started reading it and I couldn't put it down. And I borrowed it and finished it like in 3 days. It's quite an impressive book. I'm Okay, You're Okay. Think about it as psychology, like without the psychology jargon. It breaks down human interaction. So it's like transactional analysis, why we act the way we do. And if you're someone, because the thing about growing is that you meet a diverse set of individuals and you would notice that not everybody has emotions. Not everybody has the full spectrum of emotions by default. So some people are more stoic. Some people, and so if you're someone who, if you keep getting the feedback that, oh, you don't understand me, or you're out of touch. If you keep feeling that you cannot understand how other people's brains work, it's possible that you need like a bit of a crash course on like on
emotional intelligence or emotional awareness.
To put it lightly. So it's a book that I highly recommend for anybody, for everybody actually. I Am Okay, You're Okay, because you would read it thinking that you want to understand other people, but it would put you in perspective. You would start looking at yourself and understanding why you do certain things in a certain way. So yeah, I recommend that. Okay, so I've gone through Guidance for Life, the Bible, General Guidance, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, Psychology, I'm Okay, You're Okay. For data science, so first of all, for Python, learning how to code in Python in general, highly recommend the book Automating the Boring Stuff with Python. I think there's only one author of that book, but I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. Automating the Boring Stuff with Python. Highly recommend that for learning Python for people that have never learned Python before. And then now data science. Highly recommend you the Python for Data Science by Jake Van Der Plas. So Python for Data Science by Jake Van Der Plas is really good. It takes you like through IPython, NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, scikit-learn, Introduction to Machine Learning, stuff like that. But you must not read these books cover to cover. Okay. Is that 5?
Yeah, it's 5, but one more.
Oh, wow. That's okay. One bonus. Okay. For people that...
The others, we can share them in the resource notes if you don't, but yeah, just one more.
Okay. What is going to be my last book? So I'm going to recommend a chapter of a book. Okay, I would recommend a chapter of a book, but the book as a whole is also really good.
Okay.
There's the Python cookbook.
Okay.
It's published by O'Reilly, but I don't know who the authors' names are. So if you're someone who learns how to code like me, not with formal coding experience, but like books, videos, online tutorials, it's possible that you don't know some of these computer science fundamentals. like data structures and algorithms. So go to the Python cookbook and read the chapter on data structures and algorithms. If you've been using it in projects, you might have like an idea of a few, but then it's good to learn the others. Yeah, I think that's that. So just a note about the Python cookbook. That's a good book for people that know some Python, can find the things that they want by Googling. You can literally, you essentially you have working day-to-day knowledge, but you come across someone from time to time, and it's clear that this person knows many things that you don't know, but you don't exactly know what it is that the person knows that you don't know. So the Python cookbook is getting you from advanced beginner into intermediate. What are those things that you should know to be a good engineer, to be a good builder? You know that there is like skills it improves your skills. So it's not introduction to Python. It's like getting from that stage where I kind of know what I'm doing, so I know what I'm doing. So I highly recommend getting a look at the Python cookbook. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You just touched on stuff that it wasn't at the top of my mind, but thinking about it right now, like this data structure and algorithms. Like, if you're on tech Twitter, which like most of it, I think you're also on tech Twitter. For our listeners, if you're on tech Twitter, and most of the time there's this two camps, right, regarding, I would say, data structure and algorithms. It's something I've also done in the past, but when I'm also thinking about those that are trying to learn this, like in terms of lead code and all these challenges people like try to go through to get into, I'll say, the top companies like the Google, in fact the Mang or the Fang, whatever you want to call it. So most of the time they always go to this, and so there's this other side of tech Twitter which says how valuable and important it is, and this other side of tech Twitter which is it's valuable and important, but it's not something you need to go and be like, because like you don't really actually use it so much on the job, and sometimes you spend a lot of time and energy learning that when you should be using that to learn. So I don't know what you think about these two opposite camps, in terms of, let me say, what's your own I'll say, I'll not say side or where you hang in this debate, but what is your thought process when it comes to this?
I think that knowledge, very, very small amounts, there's a very small subset of knowledge that is harmful. So we can estimate that knowledge is largely helpful. Like extra knowledge has a net positive effect. We can establish that relationship to a certain degree. What will happen if you know it and you don't use it? Nothing bad.
Exactly.
What will happen if you need it and you don't know it? Well, a few bad things will happen. So of course I wouldn't say you need to know all of these things, but I would say that we spend averagely 2 or more hours on social media per day. So it's not like you don't have the time to learn it.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't stop yourself. You should, as a matter of principle, get as much knowledge as you can. Like when I was at university, when we had 2-hour breaks between periods, I would just sometimes I'd stroll into seminars and just attend for no reason apart from I had nothing better to do with my time. And that's how, have that thought process. Be like, but what do I actually lose from learning this? Probably nothing. Because the thing with what carves out experience is that I look at the problem, and then a senior engineer looks at the problem, and then I look at it and then maybe I make it work. But then the person that is senior comes and does something that I didn't even think I should do. But when the person does it, I'm like, oh, that is a very good idea. So with knowledge, you don't know what you don't know. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. But you would hit a roof. You would hit a roof because you're going to come to a point where you know you have used all the knowledge that you have, and you need to learn more. So at some points, you would need to learn more of something. It might as well be data structures and algorithms. But as far as, no, everybody must know this now or else they are not good enough, I'm not I don't like those extreme conversations. But essentially, I wouldn't tell somebody that, no, drop that book, don't learn that, it's not important. Yeah, so exactly. So you would run out of things to learn, and at some point you come across it, and it's a good idea to learn, because the books you've read, the things you've learned, you don't know exactly what pieces of information you're using day to day, but all the pieces of information you have in your brain are helping make your life better as time goes by. So maybe the people that don't know the use of data structures and algorithms, it could be it's always because they know it so well that they don't realize that they are that good because of data structures and algorithms. Or it could be that they don't know it at all, that they never use it. They have never seen it being used, so they don't know like what they are losing from not using it. Because I don't think I am in the position to like be an authority on this subject, so I would not want to give I wouldn't want to stand on his side, but I would say I lean towards more knowledge instead of less.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense, and also, I mean, it kind of, because of Blaise Pascal saying, like, even the controversy about heaven and hell, where he says, like, if you do good and you die and there's no hell, you're fine to go. I mean, but if you're like, let me say there's no hell, and you just live your life of like not doing the right things or righteousness in the Christian sense, and you die and you go to hell, then you tend to lose more. So it just comes back to that, like, I just feel like,
what if it's true? What if it's useful? What if I need it? Like,
Exactly. So you're right on that. And okay, like, trying to just like round up and move fast, since we're, I think, at the end of the time. What do you think is highly overrated in data science, or highly underrated? Or what is your contrarian thought, and why?
The reason why I hesitate to give podcasts is because I don't like shaking tables, I would say. But contrarian thoughts, I wouldn't hold the thought up just because it's contrarian, but I could have a few thoughts that maybe don't agree with the large scale thinking.
Exactly.
So that would be maybe I largely disagree with the list of skills that people are expected to have before they can get a job as a data analyst or before they can get a job as a data scientist. I lean towards depth. So with Twitter, sometimes you'd say 17 skills every data scientist must have, 20 skills every data analyst must know. And I look through those skills and I'm like, probably not. You want to shorten the feedback loop between learning and doing. So learn something, use it, learn something, use it, learn something, use it. That was one of the reasons why I didn't do a master's degree. It's because I wanted to say, okay, I've had a bachelor's degree, and I use knowledge first before I get more. And then like I felt that a bachelor's degree in whatever format should be valuable on its own. And if I couldn't prove that a whole 4 years of learning was valuable, what makes me think that an extra 1 or 2 years would prove the point? So of course, I'm not saying that I wouldn't do a master's degree, but I really wanted to work immediately after doing a master's degree. And it comes to those lists too. I wouldn't want anybody to look at those lists on Twitter and say, oh, I have 15 out of the 17. I have to stay back and learn this number 16 and number 17. No. Apply the things you've learned continuously. Share your progress online, and do it like you're talking to yourself. Essentially, because your notebook that you're writing with your pen and paper is not searchable, but your tweets are, or your LinkedIn post are. So sometimes if you forget something and you remember that you've tweeted about it before, you can search yourself. It's like a public database, and you might as well do it because you would want to sit and be like, oh, I don't know anything. No, some days that you feel low, then those are the days that you go back and you look at, but I know a few things. And you go through your threads, and you go through your tweets, and you go through your GitHub profile, and you're like, okay, I'm just having one bad day. So, but yeah, learn, apply, have a bias for doing stuff, get stuff done.
Yep. Okay, interesting. And like, where do you see yourself, let me say, in the next, I'll say 5 years, or because you just mentioned the masters, which I mean, just like post-bachelor's, you went to go and get experience. And as the field of, I'll say machine learning, AI is, kind of heavily linked towards academics and all that. And at the same time, is this something you're interested in exploring, or at the same time, which other career tracks would you like to, explore, or technologies would you like to work on? So, it's
a
open-ended.
decision. Yeah, it's a decision that is still being made.
Okay.
And I have spent last year, I want to do the best of what's ahead of me. It's true that I'm thinking of like the 5 years track, but I don't want to say that, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is the path I'm taking. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 5 years. I want to do, last year, I struggled to, I tend to think like very far into the future, that sometimes I don't exist in the present. So yeah, this is me existing in this year. I want to do my best work this year. I want to do work that I'm proud of. I want to learn more. I don't know the format that learning will take, but I'm committed to feeling that I know more this month than I did last month, and to have like a bias for action. I'm saying that a lot because I want to remind myself that it's valuable to read and to learn, but it's also valuable to do stuff. But yeah, not much of a 5-year plan that can be publicly announced right now.
Okay, but anyway, maybe like not so. In the world we should live at, nothing's like guaranteed, but more, let me say, what you're interested in exploring, and maybe yours is just like a step-by-step approach of like, not like, so as time goes on, obviously I think we're going to be following track. And at the same time, for those who would like to reach out to you, obviously, I don't know what social medias or platforms you prefer for people to reach out to you on.
Twitter, LinkedIn.
Okay, cool. And last but not the least, is there any particular person or company that significantly impacted your growth? And is there any YouTube particular channel or creator which you think is actually contributed a lot to your awareness in this field that you would like to recommend to our listeners?
Persons that have highly impacted my growth, I would say my parents.
Okay.
Yeah, because the time to study, the time to just like go on tangents, and I had like some really intense blocks of studying, and because you would imagine that studying an engineering degree is a lot on its own, then pursuing a whole side career is also a lot, then being a girl and with the responsibilities that comes with, I think my family was, it was like an X factor.
Okay.
There's just a whole lot of things that fell in place because of that, because of them. Resources to recommend. I would recommend DataCamp for people that have never coded before. They have this step-by-step process that gives you feedback in real time. Like, this is what we just taught you. Let's check if you actually know the thing that we just taught you. That's how DataCamp teaches, which is good. Now, Udacity, the teaching method is, okay, we've taught you these things. Show us that you can stand on your own. So Udacity is that kind of proof of concept that you actually know your stuff. So I recommend Udacity. But you see, Udacity degrees could be a bit pricey for...
Yeah, you just mentioned something I was just about to say about DataCamp is paid, Udacity is paid. As YouTube is not paid, so we sometimes I feel most software engineers don't like to pay for stuff. I don't know why.
The truth is now, humans, we value the things that we put our time and money into. Like the day that I could actually stamp that I was taking programming as a serious side hobby was when I took my own money and bought a Udemy course for Python. So I like my money, I put it in a card and I paid for a Python course. And that's after I had participated in the mentorship program of Elite Programmers Club, which is part of the clubs in Korea. But that data was my money that I put into it. And then all the money that you spend on internet, because in Cameroon, I mean, the amount of
Africa as a whole,
money
anyway. Yeah.
spent for internet bundles, like, so it clicks in your head that, okay, this is actually an important thing, because you cannot invest that amount of money and time and then not show up for your course. So that's something. But with Udacity, that's like out of range for most students. Or when you do that currency conversion into franc CFA. So you have ALX. The ALX program are having they're giving Udacity degrees scholarships. So if they accept you, you would have a paid Udacity degree for free. I highly recommend Udacity degrees. I haven't participated in the ALX program, but if they are doing Udacity degrees, then I highly recommend that. The applications are open right now. So as soon as you hear this, search for ALX 2023. It's for people of African descent. I don't know if you have to be in the African continent or if you can be anywhere around the world. But yeah, that's about that. So Udacity and Datacam are really high. But then you have CS50, which is just introduction to programming as a whole. Not necessarily data science specific, but it's good to just attend a class. Just see how classes in Harvard look like, dare to dream. But it's actually some really good classes. So
okay, cool.
Udacity, Datacamp, and CS50. CS50 is released every year. You can actually take any version. All of them are as good. So you don't have to wait for 2023's version. You could start with 2022.
Yeah. I mean, the CSS classes are really good. Something definitely to recommend from the high perspective understanding. I think we've wrapped up with that. And is there anything we haven't touched on, let me say, or mention that you feel like is important or you like to shine light on?
This has really been a good time, Amma. I think we've covered a range of things. So no. I would just say the world is a beautiful place. Opportunities abound. Expect good. And yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you very much. And thanks once more to our listeners for taking the time to join us. And until we meet next time, carry on. Stay blessed.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, bye.